Hello and welcome to the Down to Finance podcast from Australia. My name is Amie and I am the host today, and we are welcomed by Daniel, and I'm so excited for him to join us. He is a special guest. He's a well-known real estate agent from the Langwarrin area. Whether you're buying your first home, selling your family home, or just curious about what really happens behind the scenes in real estate, this episode is going to help you today. Daniel, welcome. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Amie. This is exciting, so thank you for having me.
Before we jump in, Daniel, could you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm at the ripe old age of 33. That's a good start. I've been in real estate for 17 years.
Hang on, wait, did you say 33?
33.
Wow, you look good for your age. I thought you were 23.
Thank you. I've been in real estate for 17 years. I always had an attraction to this industry off an experience which my mum had when she was selling her property in Richmond. Really impressive guy, sold the house, had an excellent experience at auction. I was like, this is a really impressive individual. I want to learn more about it. And I think I was about 15 or 16 at that time, and I started to show some interest.
Wonderful. And we actually crossed paths very early on in our journey together, believe it or not, back in the Mount Martha days. So I think that was our first crossover.
Yes.
Obviously, what drew you to the industry, and I guess what do you love most about being a real estate agent?
I think I can answer that in two ways, because what drew me is probably not what has me here today, funnily enough, because I think what drew me as a young person is you're aspiring. I was quite entrepreneurial, and I thought, what's the kind of industry that I could be in, which, of course, yes, maybe a level of remuneration could be as high as what I aspire to achieve in my life. Mm-hmm. I come from a family of hospitality. Mm-hmm. I loved hospitality. I wanted to be a chef. Mm-hmm. Parts of me think that is a passion of mine. Mm-hmm. However, my father in particular said he didn't think that would be the right avenue because we saw him work really hard and probably not see the reward. Mm-hmm. And my father had 3 chef hats.
Yeah, wow.
Like at the top of the industry, right? Mm-hmm. And at the time, I don't think that was recognised. Mm-hmm. So he steered me away from it because if I did more prep or I cooked more meals, I wasn't necessarily earning more. Mm-hmm. So I thought, let's be in an industry which is reflective of the hard work that you do. Yep. And I treat it like a sport, not with clients, but with other estate agents and people within my team because I'm competitive. And I think that's part of the reason what attracted me to it. Mm-hmm. I think now why I'm in it is I get genuine satisfaction through doing deals, seeing people transition. Mm-hmm. We represent people for all different reasons, and I feel like I have a greater purpose through that, definitely.
Yeah, and it's very like customer focused and
so much so.
Yeah, and we've also got Sarah here in the house. Hi, Sarah. Sorry, my apologies. I actually forgot to introduce you a couple of minutes earlier. But how are you going?
Good.
So you'll ask down the next question.
Yeah. So I guess give us a rundown on day-to-day life of a real estate agent.
Okay. You probably already know this.
Apart from today, though.
Yeah,
we're on the phone a lot. No, look, I try to get up early. I'm certainly not my fittest self right now, but I think I apply like mental fitness with my work. So I get in earlier. I ensure that I'm prioritizing tasks because if you see my outbound and inbound calls is quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting on the phones generally from 8 a.m. I think that's respectful enough to reach out to people. Mm-hmm. I treat my role that how prompt I can be getting back to people is how much opportunity I can either create for myself or for my clientele. Yeah. Because I have to build a relationship which generally starts cold. Mm-hmm. And how warm can I build that relationship to a point where I can ask for something back? Mm-hmm. So, this morning came into your office.
I was going to say you haven't been off the phone since you've been here.
On the phone, on the blower.
Sitting down and
done a deal, mind you, prior to this podcast.
Which was important for me to close before here because there were time constraints with this particular deal. But no, look, I work with my assistant Heron, who's worked with me for 3.5 years. We'll generally sit down, we'll go over what our tasks are for the day. We'll divide what we're doing separately and together. And we need to have a really clear focus on what the goal is by the end of the day. We both have to have certain achievements for sure.
And I guess like from an audience perspective, like what does your ideal like working week look like? Because we all know how hard obviously an agent works, but just from like a Monday, it's not just a Monday to Friday 9 to 5
Of
job.
course.
See you later. I'm ready to pack
Yeah,
up and have
we're
a
switching
great old
off.
weekend with a couple of cocktails. Tell us about what your ideal working week is.
So I've always tried to implement an ideal working week. It is challenging, but I think there are some fundamentals. Like if we look at our day, the early part of the day is for phone calls, right? We generally see in our industry that's the hardest part of it because you got to get on the phone, you got to crush through, you've got to create opportunities for your owners. So I generally will be attending to phone calls during the day. Then there's things like inquiries which will come through. Well, they need to be attended to promptly as well. So they'll be attended to. I'll quite often have vendor conversations, let them know what we're endeavoring for them during the week. Because sometimes you have to create opportunity for your clientele. You can't just sit there and say, well, this is the marketing campaign that you've endeavored. Yes, we're going to react really well to the people who call. We have to create opportunity. So we're doing that constantly. I generally fill my afternoon with prospective new clients. I think we're lively, we're up and about by that time.
And so when you say new clients, these are clients that are in the very early stages of potentially considering listing their house, that they sort of still might be on the fence. They haven't made that decision, and that's where they get the advice of yourself.
So,
and what would a meeting like that look like?
So there's a few reasons why people will call a real estate agent. One is they're genuinely just interested in what their property is worth and they have no real interest in selling. Well, I treat that as building a relationship that maybe I can be their point of reference in the future. They're casual, they're nice, they're appointments I really enjoy because part of the reason why I do this job is I enjoy communicating with people. It is a part of me. There are also people who will call which sadly have had scenarios which are not ideal.
Yes.
Death, divorce, financial duress. I mean, the economy's been challenging over the last 5 years and people have been hanging in there. And sometimes we need to have hard conversations to say, well, maybe resetting, maybe restarting. This is what your property's worth. You can go acquire this and we can build yourself back up. You both would be aware of having those conversations regularly.
Absolutely.
The best ones are aspiring individuals, people which have said, oh, you know, we bought our first house, we bought in 2018. We look like we've made this money, work's going well, we've had a promotion, we've had a kid. Well, that's quite exciting. You can get around that for sure.
Get excited.
Especially when they're buying back into the market that you work in.
Yeah.
That brings its own independent challenges because naturally I'd like them to buy through somebody else because I'm now representing a client on the other side.
Yes.
But it's wonderful how much influence we can have.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, being a part of the journey from like their very first time to their family home to their first investment.
Correct.
And I guess that's where it's really important to build those relationships and those connections, which is why you treat all clients with, I guess, respect, no matter whether they're ready to sell and be buy ready right now or whether that's something in 12 or 2 years that they're sort of considering.
Probably very similar to us as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I guess that brings me to sort of say like the importance of a relationship between a mortgage broker and a real estate agent. Like at the end of the day, the relationship that we have with Dan is amazing because we do sometimes have clients that are going through financial hardship or unfortunately breakdown of relationships. And to be able to give Dan a call and say, hey, look, could you, support these clients? This is what we're thinking about doing. Getting that feedback from him, we can kind of build the scenario together to work out what their next steps look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess going back to, obviously, I know that's been a lot of information already, but behind the scenes, like obviously you've spoken about Heron and she's an amazing asset to your team.
Absolutely.
I obviously know that firsthand because Dan and his amazing team helped sell my house late last year. And, I was very happy with the service that I was provided. Behind the scenes, like people get to see like glossy photos, I guess auction day excitement, but what really goes on behind those days and the effort that you and your team put into a house becoming market ready?
So I'm probably the hardest person to appease out of all of my clientele. And I think what's nice is it doesn't get to them until it goes through us.
Mm-hmm.
We have a process when we launch a property to market. Well, firstly, the providers have to be great.
Yes.
And I think my providers know that I am one of the harder people on them, but they also know that I'm probably the most grateful because I recognize that they do so much extra for us, but in turn, it's for the clientele. We're not the cheapest estate agents to a point, nor are we the cheapest in terms of marketing, but it's because we have a strong belief that I say perception's reality. You're going to perceive before you see the product or meet the agent. Is your perception going to be that this is a cheap product? Is it an expensive product? Is this a lazy agent? Is this a proactive agent? How do I then have to be to operate then with that person? So I think marketing builds a really big component of that. Of course, you don't want to have the scenario where you have this beautiful glossy ad and then somebody walks in, their expectation is absolutely not met. So it has to be realistic because agents can overdo it.
Yes.
It's important to have that at a level playing field, but we believe in the product that we're selling and we want to promote that to the best of our ability to ensure the client gets the best return. Of course.
And I know, like, speaking firsthand, but, you know, when I went through getting my house market ready, the support that I received in terms of like decluttering my house and, you know, the whole minimalist approach, like remove all of this out, you know, that comes from years of experience, like the feedback that you've received about you, like your marketing campaigns and everything like that, is that you're going to achieve better results by being harsh, I guess, with your vendors to say, this is what you have to do in order to achieve great photos.
I do say to clientele that I would rather them have, because I think what's worth recognizing is selling is stressful.
Yeah.
Even if you appoint the right person and everything from A to Z goes perfectly fine, you will be stressed. I won't be able to, I'll be able to mitigate a little bit of that, but sadly, I'm not lying in bed with you at 10 o'clock at night saying it will be okay. But because it will be. But I think if we can be organized, we can have a team of professionals around, whether or not that's financial or that's, you know, marketing. And someone like Heron goes in, encourages, supports, uplifts, and ensures that they feel great about their product. So then they can enter the market positively as well. There's a lot of psychology in real estate, and I think we need to be a chameleon because we deal with all sorts of different people. And if you can't manipulate yourself to work with these people, you're going to have a really hard time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. You've got to be able to adapt to, I guess, every, you know, client, every situation. And I think, just being diverse in your approach is really important.
On the other side of things, like say for our listeners who would are coming to, you know, make an offer, whether they're first home buyers, next home buyers, like what's your secret sauce for them to make their offer stand out? I think the best.
There is a consensus to not share information with the agent. Well, that's okay for a certain period of time, and I can understand that we want to be strategic and they would like to be as well. But I think there's a few different categories of buyer. But if I'm a buyer out in the marketplace, I want to make sure the agent really likes me because I think if you're personable, you're friendly, you're nice, the agent's actually going to want to engage, want to help, want to support you through it.
Sure.
Because I think what a lot of buyers may not understand, I'm paid by the owner to ensure, yes, I get the best return, but the owner also pays me to create a really, really nice buyer experience. And if we don't create that experience, well, that's not going to return the client anything or us anything or the buyer anything.
And
I don't think people think about that enough. So I'm actually here to serve the buyer. And if they need things, well, I need to be prompt. So for me to then build trust, I need to action the things that they need. So probably highlight your interest. Don't be afraid to be somewhat vulnerable. Of course, if you deal with the wrong person, sadly, that's not going to return you what you want. But if you come to us, we're going to support you and we're going to work through. We're going to navigate you to great mortgage brokers. We're going to ensure that you're educated on what's next and we're going to help you.
Okay.
And I think like it's really important to always remember like asking like quality questions
Yes.
from your
Yeah.
initial conversation with a real estate agent, like to be able to then build your offer around the answers
Correct.
to those quality
Absolutely.
questions.
Well, a lot of buyers are not aware of something called material fact.
Yes.
This is a greater discussion than today, but an agent has an obligation to what material fact they're aware of, which could then affect you as a prospective purchaser.
Mm-hmm.
We've sold properties which have had death, foul play, termites, building related issues. And if we're privy to this, we actually have an obligation to tell the buyer.
Right.
To have that disclosed.
Correct. So I think
I
even
think that's definitely a myth. Like,
Mm.
I think that, like I wasn't aware of that.
No.
I just, so that's a really interesting, key point to.
it used to be, and I think we're in a real balance in the industry right now about buyer due diligence
Mm.
and material fact. They have to come together a little bit
Sure.
because the buyer needs to take some responsibility for being diligent,
Mhm.
but the agent needs to not be afraid to promote the product for what it is
Yeah.
and show value around what it is. And I think that's because agents don't necessarily educate themselves enough
Mhm.
on both legislative requirements
Mhm.
and how to verse things in a way which are not scary.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then we can continue moving forward within a deal which may have some ambiguity around it.
Sure.
Mhm. And I think like it's important because we go through so many industry changes that like being aware of all of those is really important. Like it's
Very much
something
so.
that you would focus on, weekly or something
Mhm.
with your entire team. Like, and it's something like for us as mortgage brokers, like policy is always changing with the lenders. If we're not doing policy updates at least 1 to 2 days every couple of days, like we just wouldn't be able to deliver that service to our clients. One thing that I wanted to ask, which I feel like a lot of our audience would like to know is like, say you're in a situation where you do need to sell your property quickly.
Mhm.
What's one piece of really good advice, or what's one thing that you see people make the biggest mistake on? Because I mean, for us as mortgage brokers, like we obviously try and give our clients the worst case scenario.
Yes.
And I think sometimes working with a real estate agent to be able to, understand their bottom line, but then they do the opposite,
Correct.
which is obviously market their property for
Mm.
X. So I think just like what's one way that our audience can really understand of how to sell a property quickly. And I'm not talking about selling it for like the lowest price, but I think this is something that, we've had a lot of clients over the last like 12 months that have had unforeseeable circumstances and needed to make that decision and make it happen quickly.
Don't cut corners. So yes, I think there are time pressures from time to time, which may be motivated by any reason.
Mm-hmm.
However, you've got to remove yourself and take your vendor hat off for a minute and put yourself in a buyer. I would always encourage every owner to walk around their home really objectively. Once again, I do that because I think my job is to say to the owner, yes, there are wonderful features about your home, but what if we improved X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
Well, could that affect you, one, in how quickly your property sells and how smoothly and how attractive it is? But it, two, could affect you financially. And that may be the difference of a singular week.
Yeah.
Just a singular week of you not rushing to market. The next thing is, I think agents are very good at positioning themselves as an authority. We're supposed to be very good at presenting to people because we have to do it on the other side. We have to be convincing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to read through the ones which are telling you what you want to hear for their own benefit, because we're remunerated by the deal. We're remunerated by the fact that you've agreed to list with us. So, but there are agents within a marketplace which are notorious for overpricing homes and then underselling them or bringing them back. But that agent's still getting rewarded at the end of the day for maybe the wrong term is being dishonest from the start.
Yeah.
So I think not necessarily picking the cheapest, pick somebody who's willing to give not agreeable advice,
Sure.
sensible advice.
Yeah, and I think like when we're ever dealing with vendors that are selling, I always say, like, with a marketing campaign, like, you want to be the one that's paying for that. Like,
Correct.
put your most valuable asset back in your own hands, or else I feel like if the agent's covering the marketing, like, there's a conflict of interest. So I think by
Yes.
obviously really making sure that you have full control over paying for that
Correct.
marketing campaign is really important.
In the past, I'd worked in real estate companies where there were some discussions around covering marketing. But I think behind the scenes, what they don't know is the agent is approached by their director about recouping those funds as soon as possible, somewhat at any cost, which then creates an ethical imbalance that they're there to ensure the sale is progressing through as quickly as possible at somewhat any cost.
Yeah, so it's
Absolutely.
almost
not
rushed
sensible.
through. Yeah.
I guess just quickly touching back on, say, first home buyers, because we've got an amazing scheme at the moment where obviously first home buyers are coming through the market, and obviously we love Leafy Langwarrin. It's an amazing area, and obviously that's where you predominantly have built your reputation, even though you do obviously serve the Mornington Peninsula. Good old Leafy Langwarrin for a first home buyer is a great opportunity to get in. When you're dealing with a first home buyer, I think the first thing I hear from a lot of them is like, I'm so scared to talk to the real estate agent. Like, they're going to know I'm a first home buyer, but it's actually not like that. I mean, maybe with some.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's
I love
enjoyable.
working with
we
first home
all
buyers.
love first home buyers. The success stories that come through, and I mean, we've both been in our careers for nearly 16, 17 years now. So first home buyers that we met back then have now turned into our vendors and investors. And so I think, we definitely never discriminate against a first home buyer. But I guess when you meet a first home buyer just at an open home, like, what's that interaction like for you?
I want to ensure they're ready. I think, once again, I go back to ambition.
And ready? Can we just make sure?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Does that mean? So I think sometimes they can be ambitious and be excited, and they go out and see property, and when they're not ready, which is discussing with a mortgage broker, an individual which can obtain finance options for them, I think is particularly important, because as an estate agent, we will take buyers seriously when they're showing that they are serious.
Yeah.
So for us, I think educating them, ensuring that we get an understanding of what their goals are, what they want to achieve, then just avenuing them toward that a little bit. And some of them come to us and they're not ready. Well, it's important that then we play somewhat of a role in their life of, well, okay, you may not be ready now and you're just looking, but what about in 3 months' time? You said you want to settle before the end of the year on your first home. Well, these are the steps that you require doing. And I would say the first thing we would encourage is you need to find out financially what you can afford and have an understanding of the climate. Then if you want to come out and look at property, well, why don't we tell you every property you come through what it sells for? Then you can have your own independent research that then when you're sitting with another agent about to write a contract, you're like, oh, the property I went through last week, that sold for $635. Well, this is kind of similar to that.
Yeah,
so
that's
educate
great.
yourself.
Yeah, amazing.
I guess another important thing about talking to an agent
building
like
that.
yourself, because you can get those insider sort of tips or,
Of course.
getting the facts.
And not every property goes obviously online. So you also deal in a whole nother world,
off-market,
which is an off-market space.
And I say to my first home buyers, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like, sometimes, when they're not confident and they're like, oh, I don't know what to say and blah, 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 like to give them confidence, I'm like, the agents actually love working with first home buyers because you are living at home with mum and dad, you would assume, most of them. I was like, that means, you can work in your settlement with the vendor, with what they want. It might be a vendor that wants a 30-day settlement, or it might be a vendor that needs a 90-day settlement. I'm like, that's attractive. Like you guys, most people have got to sell a house and then that delays them and so forth.
First home buyers have a lot more strength than what they think.
A lot more flexibility to mold their offer to the vendor.
Yep, because if we look at the two things we generally negotiate on is price and then settlement and then conditions. Well, they're in a really favourable position because if they're versing mum and dad who've settled or just sold their property and they need to get in 45 days, well, my client wants 90.
Yeah,
well,
because they need time to then obviously
to go and secure the next home. So
exactly.
Just I know it's a vote of confidence to first home buyers. You really have to be brave, of course, but just treat us in the same way that you'd treat asking your family that question, and you'll see that you'll find that you'll get great responses and will be really supportive and helpful, because they do hold the key to us selling a property too. So we need to build that relationship. We need to be supportive. So.
Amazing. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing so many valuable insights. I know our listeners, we're very young on this podcast, but we're very grateful for you taking the time out of your busy day to come and share that with us. And before we go, how can people connect with you if they want to learn more about like the Langwarrin area or get in touch with you about buying or selling?
So firstly, we're growing a big team now. So I think we're covering a vaster area, and we've got great individuals who are supporting people between, let's call it Seaford, all the way down the peninsula. But I think social media, jump online, contact me. I think you'll find that even if you don't purchase from me, we're happy to be really supportive, because we're trying to put the tokens in the account for 5 or 10 years' time.
Absolutely.
Because, of course, it's important to me that if you're buying in my area, well, that means you're selling in my area one day. I'm not going anywhere in the short term. So I think just, lean on us, reach out, and we're happy to support you.
Yeah, I think that's really lovely to hear, because we do live in a world which is extremely fast-paced.
Too fast.
I think I always use the McDonald's terminology, like you rock up to the window, you get your, Big Mac and your large chips, and you drive out and your happy days, and you're done within 30 seconds, and you've, whereas I think like most of the businesses that we want to be associated with are all about the long-term gain. We really want to care and support you now, but obviously long-term into the future as well. Correct. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Amy.
And we look forward to you guys listening to the next podcast. Thank you very much. Just remember to keep in mind, these podcasts are just general advice. And if you are after something more customized, reach out to your financial advisor, or you can reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to help.